okay with like being in front of a screen. It's just the little kids that I go, how do they put kindergartners in front of a screen for, you know, hours?
Well, it's probably easier to keep them in front of a screen than it is to keep a mask on them all day.
That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Which is probably why they're at home instead of in school right now. Although they're looking at opening sometime in the end of October, potentially. Who knows?
Yep.
That was
We've got a 4-year-old, so I'm really glad that we just literally just missed the, you know, the school season. Yeah.
Did not miss it at all. As a matter of fact, with the high school and middle school, that leaves Heather and I being involuntarily deputized into 18 classes worth of teachers' assistants roles, which is not a ton of fun because that we are also the lead disciplinarians as well.
Yeah.
Well, just remember the Chinese proverb, that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
No, that's not true. That which does not kill you hurts a lot.
Yeah, well, that's another one.
It does, and it also makes you stronger, right?
Yep, that's right.
Our tissue is stronger than regular tissue.
You know that one of the fallacies of scar tissue being stronger than regular tissue is that scar tissue outside of bone mass is actually restrictive. So you actually end up worse. Even though the scar tissue is stronger, it's actually worse for you.
Wow. Determined to be negative this morning. What's in that cup?
I need to finish my first cup of coffee and go get it.
Okay, now it's all explained.
Oh, yeah.
Disposition will reassert itself shortly.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Josh.
Everybody.
Hi.
I'll tell you, Terry, it works out this way because, you know, like, so last week at the very beginning of the week, we had to keep our youngest home from school because he had the sniffles, and we were like, this is just regular school cooties, but we can't be sure. So we quarantined everybody for 3 days. Like, got a COVID test. He got a COVID test that was negative, and we sent him back to school. 2 days later, we get a note from the school that says his teacher has been exposed to COVID.
Oh,
like,
man.
That's no good.
So yeah, so I'm just getting a little training in negativity here.
And I think it's because fall's coming and it's like flu season and allergy seasons. You know, it's just going to be like that, I think, a lot in terms of kids being sent home and things like that.
If they go in.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. 2 reasons. One, we're live on Facebook, so say hello to our audience out there. And the second reason is because it's 9 o'clock, so we all got places to be today, and we want to hear Sara do her presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Welcome, everybody, to 1 million, the RTP chapter of 1 Million Cups. My name is Dominic Battistello, and I am glad you're all here this morning. Can everybody see my screen? Can we see the presentation here?
Yeah, but you're in preview, not slideshow. There you go.
There you go.
Alrighty, a slideshow now. Excellent. So, like I said, RTP chapter of 1 Million Cups. What is 1 Million Cups? 1 Million Cups is a free national program designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs. We are the entrepreneurial ecosystem building arm, the local arm of the Kauffman Foundation, which is a $4 billion endowment for the promotion of economic development through entrepreneurship. There are now over 160 communities across the country with 1 Million Cups chapters. We are a supportive, neutral space, industry agnostic, and a non-pitch environment, meaning that our presenters here are not here to sell to the room. They're here to ask for help from our community. And the whole idea is for us as a community to ask, what can we do to help you, Sara, as our presenter? So typically the format is we have 1 to 2 startups in a given week. They give a 6-minute presentation followed by about 20 minutes of questions and answers from the audience. We love when people get involved, and there's a number of different ways that you can be involved. One is to become an organizer. That is to help connect and build our startup community. And if you want to become an organizer, you can reach out to any of the current organizers. I will go over who those are in just a moment, but ones I can see on the screen right now are George, David, and Terry. I know Dan's in the room as well. So you can reach out to any of us if you're interested in becoming a 1 Million Cups organizer. You can also apply to present. It is an extremely painful process of going to our website at www.1millioncups.com/RTP, clicking the apply to present button and answering about 4 or 5 questions, and that's it. Very, very difficult, as you can tell. So if you have a company that you think could benefit from presenting here, please, by all means, apply to present. We'll have a conversation. You could also refer a presenter. So if you know an entrepreneur with a startup company, let them know that we're here to help. Invite them to come to a meeting, and perhaps they'll see value in presenting here and apply to present themselves. And then, of course, what you're all here doing today is attend our meetings and give excellent feedback to our presenters. I'd like to thank our community organizers. We have Krista Johnson Sotomayor, William Clote, Tracy Ames, who's our intake coordinator, Rosalinda Cruz, David Bates, George Stewart, and Terry Conlon, aforementioned, are our coaches, Dan Hepworth and myself. Also want to thank our community sponsors, Mighty Dog Roasting Company, Imperative Product Operations, the NC State Global Training Initiative, NC IDEA, American Underground, David Bates' company Wise Insights, the Massapequa Tutor, Soto IP, and New York Life. So without further ado, welcome Sara. Is it Davison? That's correct, it's Davison. And she is going to tell us about Kinley. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand the steering wheel over to you, Sara.
Is my presentation showing?
Not currently.
Not yet. You need to share it and then.
Oh, sorry, I did turn that off. How about now?
You got it.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really looking forward to this session. My name is Sara Davison. I'm the full-time solo founder for Kinley. The reason I'm here today is I'm looking for some support specifically to do with a go-to-market strategy. So developing some strategic ideas around how to scale my business strategically, whether it's through distribution channels, partnerships, things like that. And also to connect with anyone that might be an expert in marketplaces and the unique kind of challenges that fall with marketplaces. So solving the chicken and egg problem, how to create defensibility through creating network effects. So any contacts in that area, I would be very, very grateful for. So the reason I started Kinley is because I had this question repeating in my mind. Why does it take forever to find and book trusted services for my family? My background is in corporate business development. So I used to manage banks' strategic alliances. There were 50 million plus contracts. And even though I was given some guidance on how to do that job, as the saying goes, this baby does not come with a manual. And another sort of saying that I think is a bit cheesy, but also true, is it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. But for us millennial moms, 17 million plus of us in the States, we find our village online. So this is where the rubber hits the road, is that any parent will tell you we're time poor. We don't have, as one of my clients said to me, we don't have time to be endlessly searching the internet. And the challenge is that even though we're used to doing things really quickly and conveniently online, that's how we expect to do things. We're talking about our precious cargo here, our babies, our families. So we take really, really good care and discernment when it comes to selecting a provider for our family. So this all actually started when I was a very sleep-deprived mom, and I was looking for a sleep consultant. I just needed some help to get this baby to sleep. And as I was looking for providers in my area, I was just spending hours on Google. And then when I was looking for other support, like with a lactation consultant, with a nutritionist, all these different services that I needed for my family, there was this common pain point for me, which was, I just want to be able to find and book a provider that I feel like I can trust in a really easy, organized way. As I was engaging with these providers, so they're often solopreneurs, they're often one-person organizations that are just really passionate about helping parents get their babies to sleep or whatever it may be. And they don't have a massive Google Ads budget. They don't really have the inclination or the need to work out what SEO, how to work SEO and what the latest hashtag strategy is. So they really struggled with getting their services discovered by families in a really competitive market. So I guess looking at all that trend when I was with my baby, when I was looking for all these different providers, I came to the conclusion that the marketplace for family services is very fragmented. And that's where the idea for Kinly came about. So Kinly is a platform where parents can find and book trusted providers in minutes. For parents, they gain time, trust, and convenience when they're seeking services. For providers, they gain that extra customer that could really be the change to their bottom line that they need. They gain credibility and differentiation in a really crowded market. And what Kinly essentially does is takes the friction out of the process of seeking services and providing services in the family services space. So this is giving you an idea of how it works for Kinly. Step 1 is search and compare. Step 2 is review. Step 3 is book in minutes. So one of the things about Kinly is that, as an example, you can be looking for a photographer. Now, as a photographer, there's so many different types of photographers. Are you looking for a maternity shoot? Are you looking for a baby shoot, a newborn shoot? So there's all these different filters that you can filter on Kinly, including availability of the provider, the price range that you're within, and all these other advanced filters that we're adding to the different categories. So they're going to be category specific. As you can see, it's really easy here to scroll through and say, well, I really like the work of this provider. They're in my price range. They're available when I need them to be available. And then you click through to their profile, which is a comprehensive view of their services and how they deliver those services, and and their reviews and other factors like that. And once you're satisfied with that, you can request to book by suggesting a date and a time. So the competitive landscape looks a little bit like this. And I might take you on a journey that you've probably been on. Say you're looking for a photographer. Often we start with anti-clockwise with Google and Facebook because that's where the most amount of data exists. But that is also where the convenience ends. It just takes forever to be able to use that information in a meaningful way to come to a decision on what provider that you're looking to choose. Then you go to perhaps online directories. So they're more specific around perhaps presenting more filterable information, but you're often getting redirected to a different website to complete the process of booking. So once you're on, hopefully, the website of the person or the provider that you've chosen, you're hoping that that becomes an easier process to then complete the booking and get things done. But what we're really looking to do with Kinly is to take that friction out completely and make it really easy to search, compare providers with really meaningful information and complete that booking on our platform. So we think that there's a massive untapped opportunity here. We've done a lot of data work, and we've come up with the fact that we anticipate there's 3.8 million businesses with a total market revenue opportunity of around $18 billion. We've estimated that the spend for this market on marketing is about 1.34 billion. And we think that a 7.5% of the total market share is a realistic goal. And based on our subscription cost, so we're charging subscriptions at a base of $29 per month, that presents a total potential revenue opportunity of 99 million per annum, which is a big number. And totally realize that. And this is where, I guess, organizations and help from people like you come in, because we need help with the strategies on how to get there. So our post-pivot traction is looking promising. I say post-pivot because I am more than happy to answer questions about the pivot in the Q&A section. But essentially, in the last 3 months, we've made $1,900 in sales. So that's, we're hoping, annual recurring revenue. And our plan for growth. So as I mentioned, we were based on a commission model. So pre-pivot. And we were taking essentially commissions of paid bookings from our site. So in the 2 years prior to this, to July this year, we earned $7,200 off that. So that's from about 2,831 bookings that happened on our platform. And from this pivot, we've actually made about a quarter of that in 3 months. So we're really looking to get to $140,000 in annual recurring revenue between now and this time next year, but we're really needing the help and the strategies in terms of how to scale to get there. So thank you for listening in on Kinley and my presentation. As I mentioned, I'm really keen for help on with developing a really strong go-to-market strategy and help with solving the chicken and egg problem of marketplaces. Thank you.
All right, Sara, thank you for that. And we're going to go ahead and go to our Q&A session. George, thank you. So this is how it works. You want to ask a question, go ahead and contact George in a private message. Let him know you have a question. He'll put you in the queue. When it's your turn to ask the question, he will send you a chat, let you know you're next. Turn on your camera if you can or are comfortable doing that. Make sure you get your microphone on, and George will call on you when it's time. Please be respectful to everybody else who does have questions. If you have a brief follow-up, that's okay. But if you're going to have a conversation, let's save that to the end of the Q&A session. Also, don't jump in with a question when it's not your turn, please. All right. So, George, do we have anybody in queue right now? Unmute. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So Josh is up first. He's got a question about the subscription model.
Sara, so enjoyed your presentation. Actually really intriguing to me personally, because in addition to ostensibly being a photographer, in January, I'm going to be a new dad. So probably, probably going to have some questions and looking for service providers. So I just kind of had in the vein of your customer acquisition strategy, thinking about your subscription model, and putting on my hat as effectively as a service provider, especially with sort of a brand that may not be as established as yours is yet. Like, I have agreements with other businesses or other things where I basically will pay a referral fee for my business, and like I'm happy to give 10% of my bill when I've booked a job, but I don't know what, I think you said $30 a month. Like, I don't really know what that buys me in sales. Yeah. Other than sort of, hey, it's a cool idea and buying into the company. So just from, I guess I'm curious about the pivot and why you went from taking a percentage where I'm sort of, yeah, I pay you, but I'm making guaranteed to make money versus paying you without making money. So and I see you nodding, so I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, it's a really good question because it's very fresh in my mind. Yeah, we were on a commission model for a long time, and it was hard to actually make the decision to go into a subscription model. But what I found is that we're a horizontal marketplace, and the model that we had wasn't exactly scalable. And I'll give you an example. We were making our money off small classes. So if you were a provider and you were doing sort of a baby first aid class, or you were doing like a baby wearing group class, we were able to get a commission off that. But we were growing our number of businesses that we were introducing to our platform, but our revenue wasn't growing. And when I spent time, thanks to NC Idea and a customer discovery kind of presentation that I attended, I went and spoke to about 50 different clients and said, well, they were, both that they were both current and potential clients around their pain points and around this. And I discovered that taking a commission, so processing the payment on our platform, is actually a barrier for a lot of businesses. Example, a nutritionist. A nutritionist accepts insurance on our when they take a payment. So we are not integrated with all of the insurance providers on the platform. So we were getting inquiries coming in, but we were not seeing that revenue being translated on our platform. Another example would be like a doula. A doula's price ticket is $1,200, around $1,200 for a birth plan. When you're looking to spend that much amount of money, you're going to take a free consultation. There are so many businesses that take free consultations. So at that point, it was a really tough process. It was a really tough process to go to, I have to admit, because I was being challenged by the fact that what I knew in terms of how to create revenue was not scalable. I had to make the decision about whether I was going to be a vertical marketplace for parenting classes, perhaps, or whether I was going to be a horizontal marketplace. And that's where the decision came from. I always wanted to be like a marketplace for family services that I see as scalable. So that's how I arrived at the decision.
All right, thanks for the question, Josh. Elizabeth is up next.
I love your topic. This speaks volumes to a lot of journeys that a lot of us have gone through and thought, gosh, it would be nice that I didn't have to search through Facebook groups to find who I'm looking for. However, I'm curious, a lot of these services are very geographic specific. So how does geographic fragmentation play into your business model? Because a photographer in California is not competing with photographers in the Raleigh area.
Yeah, and that's a great question because, and on the other hand, then you have perhaps someone in, say, a parenting coach in Raleigh that might be able to offer services in California. So yeah, it is one of those things that we're challenged with. And so we're looking at creating, integrating sort of a function within our search. So when a person is on there, or a mom or a dad, they're looking for services, they can indicate whether they're looking for virtual versus local services. And that will essentially bring up the search results for, say, whether it's a photographer or a parenting coach. Yes, that's how we're planning to tackle that, if that answers your question.
Are you focused on specific geographies first and then expanding out?
Yeah. So so definitely learning my lesson in relation to with marketplaces is like to keep it tight and really build critical mass in one area before expanding. So kind of focusing on creating that horizontal aspect, but within a very close geographic kind of area. Yeah.
So thanks for the question, Elizabeth. Dave has a follow-up to that.
Yeah, I think that was a fantastic question. And Sara, thanks for your presentation. I think in your competitive matrix, you listed some of your competitors, and there's an element of the IPO model, which is if I spend this much money here and I have X dollars more, I can repeat that over and over and over again. So getting really, really clear on the ideal demographic and psychographic market. But on top of that, the question is, what can you learn from how your competitors did it, even though they're not doing it the same way, right? So Nextdoor is a great example because who are you going to trust more than the neighbors in your neighborhood who are also using those services, right? So I'm curious about either A, how have you looked at what those folks have done in terms of getting off the ground and solving the network effect problem, or B, what might your plans be to look into those?
Yeah, again, another great question. And something that this is one of the reasons that I'm here in terms of asking for help with a go-to-market strategy, because I recognize that it is something really important. So, and it's interesting that you mentioned Nextdoor because obviously this is where the chicken and egg issue comes up. You're going to get the providers if you can prove that you can get the customers. And so I've been testing different things out. Example is when this whole COVID thing and around the schools that we were just having a conversation about came up, I decided to test something, and I just started a Facebook group. I called it something different to like, it's not called Kinley, but it is kind of managed and advertised by Kinley. And it's essentially a Facebook group for parents looking for services. And obviously the pain point at that point in time was anything to do with schooling, like tutors, that kind of thing. And that number of parents I started off with Wake County, and that number went from 0 to 1,500 members in 3 weeks. So that gave me a platform to kind of also talk to my providers and go, hey guys, I've got an audience here that are parents looking for services. And, you know, as part of the questions that we ask them when they join. And I'm actually doing things that are encouraging providers to join. So both providers are joining from that network specifically onto Kinley. So it's like a source for me to actually get new providers on board. But I'm also using it as an opportunity to bring those providers on to talk to those parents about topics that are really relevant to them right now. So trying to get that like engagement going. And I formed relationships with various other groups in the area. So all across the board, I have access to around 35,000 parents in the Triangle area, where I'm using it as an opportunity to get the word out about Kinley through doing interviews with my providers on their services to those parents, if that makes sense. So it's not a really scalable thing at this point in time, but I think it's just a way for me to kind of test how that's working, and essentially it's actually working very well.
Great, thanks for that. Terry's got a question.
Hey, Sara, thanks again for showing up and outlining this really valuable service. So number one, some feedback. I think your pivot towards a subscription model is a really intelligent one, and I think it'll bear fruit for you. The other observation I would make, a suggestion really, is that there's a market segment other than parents for this kind of thing. They're called grandparents. Now, grandparents, oftentimes of first or second or third grandchildren, are willing to spend money to be of help, not just to the grandchildren, but to their children who are the parents. And I think it's an underserved market for this kind of thing. So if you could find a way to reach them in the same way that you've reached 35,000 parents in the Triangle, I think that would bear fruit. So how much is the subscription model? So
I'm actually charging the provider at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point in time, the provider is charged. Okay. But it's interesting. I don't want to get ahead of myself because I have to get it right. But I do see there's an opportunity in the future, especially if I create a tiered marketplace for subscriptions, to have an opportunity to provide benefits for parents or grandparents who want to subscribe and get exclusive benefits to the top tier of providers on our marketplace.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's something that's been on the back of my mind, but I'm like, I just need to focus one thing at a time. Yeah.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Dan has a question, but before we go to Dan, Sara, could you remind us of what you're looking for? What can we as a community do to help you?
Okay, I think all these questions are actually asking really relevant questions to what I'm looking for, which is a go-to-market strategy. So being able to identify how to scale what I'm developing in a strategic way. Because they say when you're starting something off, do things that don't scale. And that's what I've been doing. But I feel like I need that kind of really strong vision of how I'm going to take this forward. And also, some expertise around anyone who has experience or has insight around solving the chicken and egg, which I feel like everyone's contributing to that conversation anyway. Yes, both those questions. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Okay, Dan, you're up.
Hi, Sara. Thanks for presenting. So I actually run a tutoring company for some background, so kind of familiar with the marketplace, and I think there's a lot of parallels given that tutoring is something that has a high trust barrier where parents like to referrals. So I was curious if you've considered like a referral system for both sides of the market where, for parents, if they refer someone, they get like $20 or $30 of credit. And for the vendors, if they refer another vendor, then they can get like a free month of membership. The second, I guess, thought I had was, I was curious if you explored like some sort of guarantee. I think some others mentioned like there's like this barrier where, maybe I'm kind of worried about paying to be on this platform if I'm not going to get business. But like, what if there's some sort of guarantee where it's like, you don't pay until you make your first $100 or something like that? Would that be something that, could be of value?
I haven't actually, that's a great idea, but I haven't actually considered it, to be honest. Some sort of guarantee for providers. It is an interesting concept to explore, for sure. But yeah, I haven't really considered it. And what was your first question, sorry?
Have you explored like a referral system for growing both sides of the market?
Yeah, I am actually. That's part of what I want to implement. So, so for providers that are coming on board, they're actually already starting to refer other businesses over, which is a great sign. But to sort of have that as a part of our operational business as usual process, so they can get benefit from doing that.
So Sara, I've got a question. Your 35,000 parents, are those actually in your Facebook group? Or is that just, there are 35,000 parents, you don't know how to reach them?
No, 1,500 of them are in my Facebook group. And that's growing probably by about 100 every week or two. I'm a member of various networking groups where you can be part of their team. And by being part of their like sort of leadership team, I guess, you have the opportunity to present your business and get the word out there, I guess, for your, So I have access to those people. They're not my customers, if that's the distinction that you're looking for.
They're not your Facebook followers.
No.
But you still have a pretty good community as a feeder community.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to ask people who have not asked a question, because we have 28 people on the meeting today. If you have not asked a question recently, don't be shy, particularly if you're a young parent. We'd like to hear from you. So please ask a question. So I'm going to start with Elizabeth, who's got the 35,000 question concerning the 35,000 people.
Well, I have that question, but I have another one too. So you say you have access to 35,000 people. How many of those people are potential market for you? Because like me, I had my babies, we're good. So I love your services, but I'm not a potential client for you.
Yeah, I know that the 1,500 that are on our site are obviously parents that are looking for services. We have a following of about, on our socials, about 2,000. So we know that they're there because of what we're doing. And the bigger group that I'm a part of, I do not have exact demographics of who has younger kids versus older kids, but because it's a networking group, but it's still a broad base. So I would assume that a good percentage of the 30, even if it's another 5,000, that's a lot of potential families to get in front of.
And then I also wanted to ask, have you reached out to groups like Baby Wearing International or La Leche League or the doula groups?
Yeah, so I feel like they're part of what I'm trying to develop in terms of like the distribution side. Is like, as an example, the international IBCLC, they've got all of the lactation consultants across the States. So so they are kind of organizations and associations that I would see that would fall under like a distribution or channel strategy, but I haven't gone down that road yet. Yeah.
So Terry has a question or suggestion that is completely different from this, different line of thinking.
Yeah. So when George asked about your ask, Sara, one of the things that occurred to me when you responded by saying the dialogue itself is helping you because it's helping you form some opinions outside of maybe your specific area of expertise. Do you have an advisory board? Do you want an advisory board?
100%. Yeah, I'm a solo founder with a young child at home. And I am definitely feeling it. I'm definitely feeling the intensity of trying to build this on my own. And so I am very keen, and part of what I'm wanting to do is to present to VMS with CED for their venture mentoring service, happening tomorrow. And yeah, and I realize that it's, you can only go so far alone. And I don't have all the answers. So that's why I'm here. Yeah.
So then my specific suggestion would be recruit an advisory board.
Right.
But make it clear their job is advice. Their job is not decision-making about your business.
Yeah, I mean, even on that, I would appreciate like a conversation around that. You know what I mean? Because I've never had an advisory board before. So,
Well, if you'd like to talk offline about the pros and cons of advisory boards, I'd be more than happy to find the time offline.
Okay, thank you. I will take you up on that, Terry.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a reminder, or just an announcement, I guess. Sara is going to stick around after 10 o'clock for some informal, unmoderated coffee chat. So if any of you want to stick around and exchange contact information or just follow up in more detail, then please know that she's going to be sticking around after 10 o'clock. So Mike has a question concerning discounts.
Yeah. Hey, Sara. So first of all, congratulations. You are doing the really hard work of getting out there and building something. So I hear you. I've been doing a similar grind for about a year. So first of all, just congratulations. Stick with it. You're doing some awesome stuff. Second of all, so I'm in the VMS, CED VMS mentoring program, and it's been tremendous. So I think that should be a really good start to your getting sort of a pseudo advisory board in place. So happy to talk offline if you want to talk about that at all. But it's been an awesome thing for me. And then I was trying to think back to your question about like how can you build something that is scalable? And I don't remember if you're facing a bigger challenge bringing on like customers or companies. But one idea that I had, and this could be a terrible idea, so you've done the hard work of consumer discovery, so let that be your guide. But just an idea that I had would be, could you create a price offering to your customers to say like, hey, we are going to be 10% lower than what you'd find like in the common marketplace. So if you source your your providers through us, it'll be 10% lower than if you found them somewhere else, which you could then fund through as like a rev share from the companies that you're working with.
Yeah.
We're doing rev shares with our business, and we found that to be an effective way to sort of fund growth through transactions. So again, an idea. It could be a terrible one, but
no, I mean, I think what you're touching on is kind of like what me and Terry were discussing before, which was around, like the revenue streams from both sides of the market. And it is something, like you say, that I have considered, especially in relation to the fact that I'm looking at doing a tiered kind of model. And so to have like an exclusive club of providers who meet certain criteria, like 5-star ratings, whatever, years in business criteria. And then they are able to offer the deals, I guess, so to speak, to the moms and dads who subscribe to receive those deals, or the grandparents, so that is something that I feel is like, it's an opportunity. The reason I'm hesitating is I feel like I need to build the foundation first of getting this business off the ground. because it's kind of like ticking along. Yeah, I feel like I need to build a stronger foundation of having like that pool of providers to maybe consider adding that other element. But maybe I should speak to you offline about how you've gone about doing that with your business, because it sounds like you started from day one.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's find some time offline. I'll shoot you a private thing with my email, and we can swap notes.
Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
Great. Hey, thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Dave's got a follow-up to that.
I always enjoy the opportunity to follow up on ideas that Mike has. So it's exciting. I think there is something to be said. I actually have a fairly complex thing that I'm going to try to distill down, and we can kind of talk more about later if you want to. This idea about price to your customer as opposed to your provider, so the end customer.
Right.
Price is a signal, and free is also a signal.
Yeah.
And so the question that I have has to do in your go-to-market strategy with the role of price to the customer, and what you've experimented with around deferral of pricing. One of the challenges with discounts is that it puts you on the race to the bottom. Yeah. But Mike's idea is actually a really interesting one because it's a revenue shared based thing. But the messaging, as you talk about your go-to-market strategy, how do you want to be positioned? Do you want to be positioned as a premium brand, or do you want to be positioned as a cost brand, right? So there's a lot of factors there. Yeah. And I think the key secret to all of this, the foundation that you say you need to build, is demand. Yeah. That's the foundation, right? So because if you generate enough demand from the consumer by saying, hey, this is who we are and this is how we're positioned for you, and the thing that you already want, you just didn't know you needed to get it from us, you'll be able to sign up providers very, very quickly. Yeah. So that gets to the question of what psychographic niche have you found that's most activated to buying from somebody for money because they don't want free. They want the signal of I paid money because, right? What do you have a sense of who that might be?
Yeah, me when I started the company. Essentially, like looking through all of this, even before we pivoted, but all of the transactions that have taken place in our marketplace have been for services for new moms and new parents, because that's where I feel the need is the highest.
So if you were to get hyper focused on sleep consultants for moms of kids from X to Y in this demographic area, like that's what I mean. Like, not all services to all moms, right? Because that's really broad. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to find all those people. So that would be a suggestion, is to evaluate, whether or not, what's the smallest viable market, the smallest viable audience that you can build the first 5,000, 10,000 people that want that service. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, we've got a service for people going back to school, right? But that's not the service that you want to serve, right? So where can you start? That I'll park it there, and we can kind of talk more later if you want to.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it is very, and this is one of my challenges that I've had is building a horizontal marketplace. It's kind of like I'm always tempted to present myself as that, but I know that I need to build the critical mass in one category at a time. And so that's, it's kind of helpful to hear it from other people, basically.
Good. Hey, thanks for that, Dave. Dan has been waiting patiently with the question.
Yeah, I just had one quick question. I was curious about like the vetting process for the service providers. Like, is there like licenses or certifications that are required, or do you just like make an account?
So that's one of the things we're going to introduce next quarter, actually, is to do license checks and background checks. That's on the roadmap for soon, because that is one of the factors that's really important for parents, is that credibility and the qualification side. Yeah, so it's a differentiating thing for us as well.
Good, thanks, Dan. Dominic's got a question.
Yeah, so my question, it has to do with the value proposition for the users. So you identified the value proposition as being able to find all of these providers in one location, but there's the trust verification issue with the providers. And I'm looking at your website now, and you have not gotten any customer feedback on the providers. Is there a way that you can, reach out to your previous users to get them to rate those your client, the service providers, so that you can start building that as an additional value proposition for the users, right? So and I know Amazon is as an example, they've got verified customers, right? So you could do the customer verification, say this is a legitimate review of this service provider, but also maybe there's a way to also provide an aggregation of ratings for that provider from their Google, maybe Yelp, Nextdoor reviews, whatever, say, outside ratings, rate Kinley rating, and have both of those side by side, so your users who are seeking services can make best informed decisions, as well as adding the additional value of having all the information about that provider right there.
Yeah, you just explained exactly what's on our roadmap for Q4. So we're building an API connection to Google and Yelp. So when a provider joins, they've got that instant credibility factor by being able to import their verification, their ratings. So it'll be a combined rating, but it will include their written reviews as well from the sources. And we're also the review thing. Yeah, you're right. That's a turnoff, like going onto our site and seeing providers without reviews. So that's one way that we're looking to tackle it. And we're also building a unique referral link so that each provider is able to send that referral to their customers, as well as, including to Kinley. So they're able to provide ratings that way too.
I would say, as a follow-up, part of what you can offer as a value proposition to the providers who are on your platform here is to provide that reach out to their clients to, hey, please give a review of your service provider, and that way it's not on the service provider to track down that individual to get the review, but you do that as part of the service.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, and Josh has got a follow-up to that.
Yeah, so it kind of jogged something in my mind. So kind of understand your model here. You're a platform for service providers. Mm-hmm. You're not selling a product, and a service provider's product is time. And so when you talk about verifying businesses and reviews of the businesses, I think there's value, for my $29 a month that I give you, there's value in knowing, when a customer books from me, how are they rated? Because, if I get referrals from other businesses, they could say, hey, someone asked me about this, but they're really kind of a pain in the rear end. And one, you either sort of don't book it, or two, that could impact your pricing, because certain customers, even for the same service, there's a lot more work to do. So that just, I don't know, that might be a little value add to the business.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree. Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody for all the questions, and thank you, Sarah. Dominic is going to take us home. That's the end of the Q&A. One more reminder, stick around after 10 o'clock for a chit chat around the coffee pot.
Thank you.
So before I go into our community announcements, I wanted to invite everybody who's here for the first time to just briefly introduce themselves. I know there's a number of folks here. Would everybody like the opportunity to just introduce themselves to the group? I know Giles is here for the first time. He's going to be presenting next week. And I know there's a number of others that I can't particularly call out if you've been here before or not, but if you haven't, please feel free. Say hi, Giles.
Hi, Giles. Hi, everybody. Sorry, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm presenting next week. I look forward to doing so. I'm impressed with the questions, and I've been through an accelerator, which is very similar to how this is working. So that was quite wonderful. So yeah, I look forward to meeting everybody next week. And
Thanks,
great
Josh.
job today, by the way. Wonderful, and best of luck. Best of luck. It's very cool.
Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Don't be shy. All right, we'll try and catch you all next week. So now it's time for community announcements. This is your opportunity to, if you would like to announce something that you have upcoming in your business, or you have an event or a deadline for a presentation or pitch contest or anything else that's out there that you'd like to share with the group and get that information out via our channels, we'd be glad to hear you. Same format as before. Please let George know that you do have a community announcement and he will call on you. But I know first and foremost, we do have an announcement from Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Baston with MC Idea. I'm a program director there. I oversee our grants direct to entrepreneurs like Sara, who's a micro grant recipient. But I just wanted to give a notice to everyone on the meeting today that we have our ecosystem partner grant. So this is it's about every 2 years, excuse me, we take applications for organizations across the state. They can be for-profit. They typically are nonprofit, but can be for-profit that support entrepreneurs in some way, doing really innovative work. So we have a call for applications through October 9th. So if you know of an organization, you're part of an organization, you know an organization that's supporting entrepreneurs that you work with or that have supported you, and they could use some funding to do some really innovative work, have them check out our website. And again, the deadline is October 9th.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. George, do we have anybody else who would like to share?
Nobody else, but I'm sure you've got something for us, Dominic.
Well, of course I do. So tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, there is a virtual networking event. It is the Rockstar Connect RTP virtual networking event, which I'll be hosting from 7 o'clock until usually 8:30 or 9. Feel free to jump on there. Sara, this would be a great place for you to introduce yourself to a number of other individuals that you may not currently be able to reach via Facebook. And I'll share that information in the chat here. And then also on September 24th, there is a live networking lunch at Sullivan's. It has been held the last 2 months, and there are about 70 business owners and entrepreneurs who attend that event on a monthly basis. So I will share that information as well here in a moment in the chat. Any other announcements? Brett, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Typically does. There you are.
I don't have a voice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, if you have anything you'd like to add, just go ahead and throw it in the chat. If there's nothing else, then we'll go ahead and wrap up the official meeting and go into our informal coffee chat with Sara. And until next week, have a productive and successful week, everybody. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 9. We'll have Giles presenting.